or about November 4th, 2008, defendant Melvin Hudson called E.L. from jail. E.L. stated he was holding it down for the Double H gang. On or about November 7th, 2008, defendant Melvin Hudson spoke with Tim LNU from jail. Tim stated to Hudson that the hood was not the same without him and that the BGs were still holding it down. On or about November 8th, 2008, defendant Melvin Hudson spoke with E.L. from jail. E.L. explained that DW supposedly shot Little Rod and paralyzed him. Melvin Hudson stated that he was certified and he would have walked up on that boy. On or about November 8th, 2008, defendant Melvin Hudson spoke with Courtney Faulkner, aka Court. Court stated that DW felt that Court, defendant Tedrick Reynard, and Buck were acting like a clique. Melvin Hudson mentioned MS. On November 20th, 2008, defendant Melvin Hudson made a jailhouse call to a Keith Sullivan from jail, who in turn called defendant Tedrick Reynard. Tedrick explained how Courtney Faulkner and Buck were robbed by the defendant Tory Richardson, aka Toto. On November 20th, 2008, defendant Melvin Hudson talked to Courtney Faulkner Jr. from jail about the robbery. On or about November 23rd, 2008, a Keith Sullivan agreed to retrieve a .40 caliber semi-automatic pistol from defendant Travis Hudson on defendant Melvin Hudson's behalf. On or about December 14th, 2008, defendant Melvin Hudson spoke with Courtney Faulkner Jr. from jail. Faulkner explained he was with Todd, Buck, and Tory. Todd was getting an MS tattoo. On or about December 16th, 2008, defendant Monterio Wiggins possessed a firearm with an obliterated serial number. On or about December 16th, 2008, defendant Tory Richardson possessed a firearm and a quantity of cocaine-based crack cocaine, 0.93 grams. On or about April 11th, 2009, defendants Dante Carlson, Dwight Carlson, and Roderick Wiggins were riding in a car together. On or about April 11th, 2009, defendant Roderick Wiggins possessed a firearm and a quantity of marijuana. On or about April 11th, 2009, defendants Dwight Carlson and Dante Carlson possessed a firearm and a quantity of marijuana. On or about June 15th, 2009, defendant Tedrick Reynard was arrested with BG, DG, and some juveniles on suspicion of gambling. On or about August 3rd, 2009, defendant Tory Richardson, Roderick Wiggins, and others robbed Byron Henderson, Brian Williams, and Troy Paul. On or about August 3rd, 2009, defendants Tory Richardson, Roderick Wiggins, and others possessed firearms. On or about September 4th, 2009, defendant Tedrick Reynard possessed a quantity of crack cocaine. On or about February 15th, 2010, KH purchased a firearm. On or about March 6th, 2010, KH reported the firearm stolen at the request of defendants Moses Lawson, Monterio Wiggins, Dante Carlson, and Roderick Wiggins. On or about March 11th, 2010, defendants Dante Carson, Dwight Carson, Moses Lawson, Montario Wiggins, and Roderick Wiggins were riding in a car together. On or about March 11th, 2010, defendants Roderick Wiggins possessed a firearm, a quantity of cocaine base, crack cocaine, 2.26 grams, and $190 in U.S. currency. On or about March 11th, 2010, defendant Dwight Carson possessed a firearm, a quantity of cocaine base, crack cocaine, 3.31 grams, benzyl palperazam, a Schedule I drug control substance, and $219 in U.S. currency. On or about March 11th, 2010, defendant Moses Lawson possessed a quantity of benzyl palperazam, a Schedule I drug control substance. On or about March 16th, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson was a passenger in a vehicle driven by E.L. that contained a firearm. E.L. claimed ownership of the firearm. On or about March 26, 2010, C.F. conspired with defendants Dante Carson and Dwight Carson to illegally purchase a firearm. On or about March 29, 2010, defendant Travis Hudson and T.J. possessed a quantity of cocaine hydrochloride. On or about March 30th, 2010, C.F. conspired with defendants Dante Carson and Dwight Carson to illegally purchase 2 firearms. In 2010, but on or before April 1st, 2010, C.F. witnessed as defendants Montario Wiggins, Moses Lawson, Dante Carson, and Dwight Carson attempted several times to collect a drug debt from Reginald Francois. On or about a date unknown but prior to April 1st, 2010, defendants Montario Wiggins, Moses Lawson, Dante Carson, and Dwight Carson threatened to kill Reginald Francois. On or about April 1st, 2010, defendants Dante Carson, Dwight Carson, Moses Lawson, and Montario Wiggins rode in a car together. On or about April 1st, 2010, defendants Montario Wiggins, Moses Lawson, Dante Carson, and Dwight Carson each possessed a firearm. On or about April 1st, 2010, defendant Dante Carson and Montario Wiggins shot and killed Reginald Francois. On or about April 3rd, 2010, defendants Dante Carson and Dwight Carson were passengers in a car driven by C.F. On or about April 3rd, 2010, defendant Dante Carson possessed a quantity of marijuana. On or about April 19, 2010, defendants Montario Wiggins and Moses Lawson fled to Texas after the murder of Reginald Francois. Both were subsequently arrested in Texas by the United States Marshal Service. On or about June 28, 2010, defendant Jermaine Hudson assaulted S.H. On or about August 9, 2010, defendant Tory Richardson possessed a firearm and a quantity of crack cocaine. On or about August 15, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson possessed a firearm, $1,174 in U.S. currency, and possessed a quantity of cocaine-based crack cocaine. On or about August 15, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson resisted arrest by committing a battery on a Jefferson Parish law enforcement officer. On or about August 25th, 2010, defendants Dwight Carson and Monterio Wiggins were riding in a car together. On or about August 25th, 2010, defendant Monterio Wiggins possessed a quantity of cocaine-based crack cocaine, 1.2 grams. On or about August 25th, 2010, defendant Dwight Carson possessed a quantity of cocaine-based crack cocaine, 2.8 grams, and $900 in U.S. currency. On or about September 27th, 2010, defendant Jermaine Hudson fled from the scene of a traffic stop. On or about September 27th, defendant Jermaine Hudson identified himself to law enforcement officers with a false name of Josh Hustler. On or about September 27th, 2010, defendant Jermaine Hudson possessed a firearm. On or about November 3rd, 2010, a caller named Bam asked defendant Melvin Hudson if he was straight. Melvin responded no. On or about November 3rd, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson called Dank's residence and left a message. On or about November 3rd, 2010, E.L. called defendant Melvin Hudson and instructed him to keep an eye on the cameras because he was informed that 3 undercover cars were headed his way. On or about November 3rd, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson called an unknown male and stated that he was about to come over and get his banger. On or about November 4th, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson explained to an unknown female that he was in a kitchen. Melvin Hudson inferred that he was not on the West Bank. On or about November 4th, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson called an unknown female, Steph, and indicated that he was on his way. On or about November 4th, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson instructed Keith Sullivan to buy him some bags. On or about November 4th, 2010, Keith Sullivan informed defendant Melvin Hudson that she had to go to the Family Dollar to purchase the bags. On or about November 4th, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson stated that he was driving down Manhattan Boulevard. The caller stated she needed $1. On or about November 4th, 2010, the female customer indicated she was tired of waiting. Defendant Melvin Hudson stated that he stopped in Scottsdale and that he was on his way. On or about November 4th, 2010, Melvin Hudson asked the female customer whether them people been around. The female customer said no. On or about November 4th, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson called an unknown male and informed him that he was back online. On or about November 6th, 2010, an unknown female called and informed defendant Melvin Hudson that the Villa Boys were in Caesars last night. The female stated that Harvey Hustlers were bucking with their H's, showing their Harvey Hustler signs. On or about November 6, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson spoke with Dank. Dank asked about defendant Jermaine Hudson's whereabouts. On or about November 6, 2010, defendant Jermaine Hudson talked about retaliating against the Villa Boys for how they spoke to an unknown female caller. On or about November 6, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson spoke to an unknown caller. Melvin Hudson stated to unknown caller the reason he, Melvin, went to jail earlier was because he smacked the out of his partner's nephew. On or about November 6, 2010, defendant Melvin Hudson spoke with an unknown male and told him he was doing some homework. On or about December 15, 2010, defendant Monterio Wiggins possessed and fired an assault weapon at his mother and sister while he was under indictment for crack possession. On or about February 17, 2011, defendant Moses Lawson possessed a firearm. On or about May 1, 2011, defendant Monterio Wiggins committed an aggravated assault with a firearm against KW. On or about May 5, 2011, defendant Monterio Wiggins verbally threatened DC. On or about May 17, 2011, defendant Roderick Wiggins assaulted a Jefferson Parish law enforcement officer. On or about June 25, 2011, defendant Dwight Carson discharged a firearm at CF. On or about September 7, 2011, defendant Roderick Wiggins drove a car with LD, CG, and MJ as passengers that contained heroin and 3 firearms. 2 of the firearms were stolen. On or about November 1st, 2011, defendant Tedrick Raynard distributed cocaine-based crack cocaine. On or about November 1st, 2011, defendant Travis Hudson distributed cocaine-based crack cocaine. On or about November 29, 2011, defendant Tedrick Raynard possessed a quantity of cocaine-based crack cocaine. Special sentencing allegations. The grand jury further alleges that, beginning on a date unknown but prior to April 2004 and continuing to or about the date of this third superseding indictment in the Eastern District of Louisiana and elsewhere, defendants Melvin Hudson, Jermaine Hudson, Travis Hudson, Moses Lawson, Monterio Wiggins, Roderick Wiggins, Dante Carson, Dwight Carson, Torrey Richardson, Tedrick Raynard, and others known and unknown to the grand jury, combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed with each other to knowingly and intentionally distribute and possess with intent to distribute 280 grams or more of cocaine-based crack cocaine in violation of Title 21 U.S.C. Section 841 A1 and 841 B1A, all in violation of Title 21 U.S.C. Section 846, beginning on a date unknown but prior to April 2004 and continuing to on or about the date of this third superseding indictment in the Eastern District of Louisiana and elsewhere, defendants Melvin Hudson, Jermaine Hudson, Travis Hudson, and others known and unknown to the grand jury combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed with each other to knowingly and intentionally distribute and possession with intent to distribute 5 kilograms or more of cocaine hydrochloride in violation of Title 21 U.S.C. Section 841 A1 and 841 B1A, all in violation of Title 21 U.S.C. Section 846. On April 1st, 2010, in the Eastern District of Louisiana and elsewhere, defendants Montario Wiggins, Dante Carson, Dwight Carson, and Moses Lawson committed an act involving murder, to wit, with the specific intent to kill or inflict great bodily harm, where they and others, both known and unknown to the grand jury, did kill Reginald Francois in violation of the laws of the state of Louisiana, Title 14, Louisiana Revised Statute, Sections 30.1, A1, and 24, all in violation of Title 18, United States Code, Section 1962D. Count 2. Beginning on a date unknown but prior to April 2004 and continuing to the date of this third superseding indictment in the Eastern District of Louisiana and elsewhere, defendants Melvin Hudson, Jermaine Hudson, Travis Hudson, Moses Larson, Montario Wiggins, Roderick Wiggins, Dante Carson, Dwight Carson, Torrey Richardson, Tedrick Raynard, Shane LeBlanc, Akey Sullivan, and others known and unknown to the grand jury, knowingly and intentionally combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed with each other and with other persons known and unknown to the grand jury to distribute and possess with intent to distribute 280 grams or more of cocaine-based crack, a Schedule II narcotic drug control substance, in violation of Title 21 U.S.C. Section 841 A1 and 841 B1A, all in violation of Title 21 U.S.C. Section 846. Count 3. Beginning on a date unknown but prior to April 2004 and continuing to the date of this third superseding indictment in the Eastern District of Louisiana and elsewhere, the defendants Melvin Hudson, Jermaine Hudson, Travis Hudson, and others known and unknown to the grand jury, knowingly and intentionally combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed with each other and with other persons known and unknown to the grand jury to distribute and possess with intent to distribute 5 kilograms or more of cocaine hydrochloride, a Schedule II narcotic drug control substance, in violation of Title 21 U.S.C. Section 841 A1 and 841 B1A, all in violation of Title 21 U.S.C. Section 846. Count 4. Beginning on a date unknown but prior to October 21st, 2008, and continuing to January 24th, 2009, in the Eastern District of Louisiana and elsewhere, defendant Melvin Hudson and others known and unknown to the grand jury, knowingly and intentionally combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed with each other and with other persons known and unknown to the grand jury to distribute and possess with intent to distribute a quantity of marijuana, a Schedule I drug control substance, in violation of Title 21 U.S.C. Section 841 A1 and 841 B1D, all in violation of Title 21 U.S.C. Section 846. Count 5. Beginning on a date unknown but before April 2004 and continuing to a date of this third superseding indictment in the Eastern District of Louisiana and elsewhere, defendants Melvin Hudson, Jermaine Hudson, Travis Hudson, Moses Lawson, Monterio Wiggins, Roderick Wiggins, Dante Carson, Dwight Carson, Torrey Richardson, Tedrick Raynard, Akee Sullivan, and others, known and unknown to the grand jury, knowingly and intentionally combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed with each other and with other persons, known and unknown to the grand jury, during and in relation to a crime of violence and drug trafficking crimes, to use and carry firearms and possess firearms in furtherance of a crime of violence and drug trafficking crime as alleged in counts 1 through 4, to wit, conspiracy to violate RICO and conspiracy to distribute cocaine base, crack cocaine, cocaine hydrochloride, and marijuana, all in violation of Title 18 U.S.C. Section 924-0. Count 6. Beginning on or about October 27, 2008 and continuing until on or about January 22, 2009 in the Eastern District of Louisiana, the defendants Melvin Hudson, Akee Sullivan, and K.N. did knowingly conceal, cover up, falsify, and make false entry in a document with the intent to impede, obstruct, and influence the investigation and proper administration of violation of the Federal Gun Control and Controlled Substance Act, matters within the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, agencies of the United States, in violation of Title 18, United States Code, Section 1519 and 2. Count 7. On or after February 15th, 2010, but before April 1st, 2010, in the Eastern District of Louisiana, the defendant, Moses Lawson, having been previously convicted of a crime punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year, to wit, a felony conviction on May 24th, 2007, in the 24th Judicial District of the Parish of Jefferson, docket number 052224K, for attempted possession of a CDS cocaine while possessing a firearm in violation of LARS 142795E, did knowingly possess in an affecting commerce a firearm, to wit, a Smith & Wesson model SW40VE, a 40 caliber semi-automatic pistol, serial number PDY 9711, in violation of Title 18 USC Section 922 G1 and 924 A2.